I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Scouts may exit at this time. Please be seated. Welcome, Superintendent Curtis. Selectman Glassman could not be here this afternoon, although she wanted to be here, and Senator Whitcoast may be coming a little bit later. Representative John Hampton is here, and so many honored guests, including members of our Board of Education in the first two rows over here, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, teachers, parents, staff members, alumni, community members, guests, and students. Congresswoman Elizabeth Esty may be stopping by also later in the program. This is a day where we all join together to celebrate 100 years of excellence at Central School. I am thrilled that you have been able to be a part of this centennial year, a tremendous milestone for our school and for the town of Simsbury. This special place touched my heart as a new principal 12 years ago. From the moment I was hired, I remember my first visit on field day when the older children were helping the younger ones in the games and events, and it was all about sportsmanship. The big C in Central could easily stand for connections, because the unity, love, caring, and connections are sincere and everlasting. It is quite remarkable that this original schoolhouse is still operating in that capacity a century later. It is even more remarkable that those special traditions and memories are alive in the hearts of families and friends, as you will see and hear in today's program. Our teachers, staff members, parents, and children have been celebrating through this entire year, as many of you know. We kicked things off in January with a decade dance, where students and families were dressed in their favorite decades, everything from poodle skirts, flapper dresses from the 20s, tie-dye shirts, Cyndi Lauper hairdos, and those leg warmers. And you will see many students, high school students, as well as our Central School students dressed in some of those outfits today. We also hosted a retiree luncheon with more than 30 retired principals and teachers in attendance, and I see many of you out there today, so thank you for coming. We hope you noticed the celebration wall of families, celebrities, James Taylor at Alabama, political leaders, Gino Auriemma, even a real wolf, our mascot, with the Central School birthday sign. The pictures on the wall were taken at locations all around the world. I believe the Casabell family wins the prize for one of the furthest locations, as their photo with the 100th birthday sign was taken in Argentina. Where are you, Casabell family? Raise your hands. There they are back there. But there were also many other families who traveled quite a distance and sent us pictures. The year also featured an aerial photo of students and staff members, a parade down Masako Street, dogs and all, to kick off our annual Central School Pet Show and Carnival, and a school-wide birthday party on September 4th, which included cupcakes and the burying of a time capsule in the bus circle. There have been thousands of students who have learned from hundreds of teachers over the course of the past 100 years, starting with the original 1913 staff of 5 teachers, which included Anna Welch, who served in education for 52 years. And this included 4 decades of educating multiple generations of children in Simsbury. Mrs. Welch ultimately became principal of Central School and had the library dedicated in her honor when she retired. Her name is still on the award that is given annually to a 6th grader who has achieved leadership, scholarship, and effective contribution to school life. There have been some significant changes, obviously, over the past century. The school is no longer heated by coal. Homes now have running hot water. So students no longer use the shower rooms at our school, and on your tour, I hope you find the old coal room and the old showers downstairs in the workroom area. Things are labeled, so you should be able to find those things. Class sizes are roughly half of what they used to be when 48 individual desks were bolted to the floor. In 2013, children collaborate, work together. They don't work individually all the time. And although students still use pencils to write, yes we do, they're also writing on laptops even more than ever before. What tremendous changes have occurred within these very walls. There is a great quote, a fabulous quote by Lon Waters. He said, "School is a building that has 4 walls with tomorrow inside." That tomorrow inside represents every child who has ever walked through the doors and has been taught by an outstanding Central School teacher. The legacy of Central School continues to live on through the children and their children, and so on. Happy birthday, Central School, and may we always keep the focus on what is truly important, and that's the children all around us. And speaking of children, at this time I'm going to call up the children from the vocal club who will be singing the Central School song. And they are right in the back with individual direction. Come on up. No one is here to guide them. They figured out what to do, so good job, boys and girls. I think we're going to put you right up on stage, or right here. Yes, stage might be better. We can all see you.
Wishing you a friendly greeting, everyone who's here. Looking forward to meet you, Central gives a cheer. Open arms embrace you.
You know what? Feel free to sing along.
It's true. Everyone is welcome. Welcome to Central School. So welcome. Welcome to Central. Welcome. We're glad that you're here. Welcome. Welcome all. Let's have a wonderful year.
Fabulous job. And at our welcome assembly, we always sing that, and every child and adult gets a gift at the beginning of the year. Started many years ago, and you'll hear about the beginnings of our Lartnick program. Next, I'd like to call our superintendent, Mr. Curtis, to the podium.
Good afternoon, everybody. Edie, thank you very much. And I also wanted to give a special thanks to not only Edie, but the committee that worked so hard over the course of the past year to plan the activities, and I know it's been a wonderful, wonderful weekend. But it's amazing to think about 100 years of sustained excellence and success. And when I think about that, I step back and I say it really shadows a lot of what we value in Simsbury. We value a quality education and a quality system. We take great pride in the fact that we like to work together, come together for a special cause, and that's what it takes to create a wonderful school system. But most of all, we believe in establishing the conditions and creating the environment so that our students can maximize their potential. And to do that for 100 years is really an amazing, amazing feat. It's my second year as superintendent here in Simsbury, and when I travel the state, people often ask me, what makes that community so special? What makes that school system so outstanding? And I've talked about this before, and I wanted to share it again today, and I believe it's the foundation that we build from. We have parents and community organizations and supporters who respect what we do, provide us with feedback, have high expectations for us. We have an amazing staff. That's from our support staff to our teachers to our administration, who believe that their mission is to create the best learning environment for the kids. And then we have the students who just performed for us this afternoon. Come to us bright-eyed, motivated, ready to learn, ready to reach the expectations and goals that we established for them. And when you're starting with those three things, you're starting from a pretty strong place. So not only have we been successful for 100 years, we can't forget those values as we continue to move forward for the next 100 years and continue and sustain our success. So I know we have a lot of speakers today, so I'm not going to take up too much airtime. Thank you very much, Edie, for allowing me to speak, and I am going to hand over the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. And we are so much about connections, not only at Central School, but certainly in the community and in the district. We are so blessed. And at this time, I'd like to call up John Hampton, Representative John Hampton, and I don't believe Senator Whitcomb is here yet. So he's going to read the proclamation. Thank you very much.
All right, happy anniversary, happy birthday. Right, let's get this party started, right? Well, I went to another school called Terriffill School, but I am so thrilled to be here at Central School, and as somebody who grew up in town, I call myself a townie. There's a lot of townies here. I knew how important Central School was to this town, and we're celebrating 100 years of how central this school is to all of our lives. What an amazing history, so many stories, so many lessons learned in the classroom and outside the classroom. So many incredible people setting the foundation, so many names that we remember. And so we're celebrating an incredible history. I want to pay special thanks to an incredible principal. And I said, I'm not coming to this event unless you decide not to retire. But she is retiring. Edie Balkin, what an incredible leader. Thank you, Mrs. Balkin. She's only 30 years old, so she's looking at other opportunities. But we have a great superintendent, Matt Curtis, of course, and a board of ed members who are here today: Lydia Tadone, Chris Kelly, who else board of ed members? Tara, Donnie Willerup, all the board of ed members do an incredible job. We have our board of finance chair, Paul Hinault, here, and of course our board of selectmen members, Shannon Knoll and Nancy Hasse and Sean Askham, and it's a team effort. And of course our deputy first selectman, Lisa Hebner, is here, and she'll say a few words. But I really want to pay a special thanks to all the teachers, how hard our teachers work, and they are the front line and don't get enough appreciation and thanks for the work that they do every day. And it's a labor of love that we know, because they can go into careers with a lot more money and benefits and fame and fortune. But I think we should give an applause to all of our amazing, incredible. Now, in my freshman year, people would ask me where I was from, and I'd say Simsbury. And like Matt Curtis said, people would say, wow, Simsbury, amazing schools. That was the first thing that they usually say. And I'm so proud of that, because I was a beneficiary of an education here in Simsbury, and remember fondly all the teachers that touched my life. So Senator Whitcomb and I got together, and the General Assembly brings our greetings and for best wishes for another 500 years and beyond. But we brought a proclamation signed by the Speaker, the President of the Senate, and the Secretary of the State, introduced by Senator Kevin Whitcomb, Representative John Hampton, hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Central School in recognition of 100th anniversary. We are delighted to join the town of Simsbury, the Simsbury Board of Education, school administrators, parents, teachers, students, and alumni in celebrating this wonderful milestone. Central School has been an incredible anchor for our community since 1913. Central School has provided Simsbury's children a first-rate education, nurturing the whole child, the mind, body, character, and creativity of each student, offering a rich and rigorous curriculum, setting high expectations, embracing diversity, and promoting a love of learning. Happy birthday, Central School. Congratulations and best wishes for a bright future. Happy birthday. Thank you so much.
time. Mary Glassman could not be here to read the proclamation, but we do have some folks who will be coming forward. I believe Lisa Hebner and other people will be sharing the proclamation as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here again, back to a place that my children went to elementary school, and a place that I love, and I look out and I see so many people that I recognize, and had an impact on our family like that one. And so it's our pleasure to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit later in the program about Frisbee. But for now, we're just going to read the proclamation for the town. I want to introduce my fellow members of the Board of Selectmen who will read the proclamation. We have Nancy Hasse, Sean Askham, Shannon Nall, and just a quick reference. This Board of Selectmen is sort of unique, and we have an unusual ties to Central School. Ms. Wertheimer, me, and Ms. Glassman all had children who attended Central School. And Mr. Askham, being the youngest of the lot, actually went here. So with that, I'll let Nancy start.
Oh, okay. Whereas Central School, the oldest elementary school in Simsbury, is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and whereas Central School was built in 1913 on a large mound of ground covered with pine trees, and
Whereas Horace Belden, a local quarry owner, constructed the school at his own expense using red sandstone from his quarry, and whereas 100 children first attended Central School, and whereas children were brought to Central School originally by Mr. Salter's big horse and wagon, and in later years by the first motor-driven school bus called the Old Cheese Box, since that is what it resembled.
Whereas the original building consisted of 5 classrooms, a health room, and a cafeteria. Children sat at desks made of iron and steel that were bolted to the floor in rows of 8, much like my memories. These students were taught reading, writing, arithmetic, geography, speech, and whereas before lockers were introduced in 1949, children hung their clothing on hooks in the hall and also took their showers at school since there was not hot water running in their homes. Whereas over the last 100 years, several additions and many improvements have been made to the original building, and in 1993, Central School was added to the National Historic Register.
And whereas the Central School theme is learning the ropes for the voyage of life, focusing on the overall educational needs of each child. And whereas Central School educators strive to create an environment where children challenge themselves, see themselves as leaders, and work together cooperatively, living by the 6 pillars of character: respect, responsibility, caring, fairness, trustworthiness, and citizenship, and
whereas generation after generation, Central School has maintained its strong community values, and now therefore let it be known, in recognition of Central School's 100th anniversary, I, Mary A. Glassman, First Selectman, join with all the family and friends of Central School to wish them a happy anniversary. In witness whereof, I have placed my seal and the Great Seal of the town of Simsbury, dated this 3rd day of November, 2013.
As you see in the hallway, if you go through there, the 90th proclamations are posted, and we will certainly frame these and find a special place for them as well. Thank you so much. And next we have Tara Donahue-Willer.
Hi, I am honored and privileged to be here today to be able to speak to you a moment about how great Central School is. I think Simsbury, we're very fortunate. We have 5 fabulous communities and neighborhood schools, and we shouldn't diminish any of their wonderful community aspects that Simsbury tries to drive into all of our schools and our communities for our children. But I think today's about Central, and Central is very important to me, and I think you can see that from here. I see teachers in the audience that I had, and it's wonderful that they, and in retirement, obviously, because I'm not young, are coming back on a day like today. It impresses the community aspects of the school. Central is a beautiful building. It's artistic and historic. Significance is true, but what the true value of Central and what Central is all about is its community. And the treasure of Central goes in and out the doors every day and has for 100 years. So the fact that we are here today, the fact that we have years and years of people here today, speaks to what community is. I personally have 4 brothers and sisters who are older than me who went here. I have 6 nieces and nephews who have gone through the school district, and then I have our 3 daughters one is still here and 2 have gone through. And I remember the circle when one day we were bringing our 2 girls to kindergarten, and I happened to knock into someone, and I looked at them, and I realized it was my friend Steve Collins, and he and I had gone to kindergarten together. And so we are friends, our children are friends, and they got the experience at Central School, and that is why we're here, that's why we stayed in town. There's something magical about Central, and I think we all know, and we're all very proud to be able to celebrate its 100th anniversary.
So much of what is shared is really from the heart, and the next speaker, Chris Palmberg, is a preschool teacher in our building right now, and her father, when he was alive, he was a great man, and I was so privileged that I knew him, Walter Dunn, and he was principal at the school as well. So let's welcome Chris Palmberg to talk about some memories, and she has something to share with us, a little surprise. Chris?
Good afternoon, everybody. I have many ties to Central School. I am also a parent of 3 children that went through here, and we had nothing but great memories all the way through. I'm a special ed teacher in town, and I happen to work in the preschool right down the hall, so I get to come here every day. But the reason I'm here today is representing my dad, who was the principal here through the 60s and for another 5 or 6 years in the 80s. He absolutely would have been here in a heartbeat. He loved this school. He was so proud of this school. I know in the 60s when he used to come here to work every day, there were 7 of us growing up. My mother used to beg him to take some of the kids with him if he came back to work on the weekends. So I, on the weekends, would spend some time in this gym. We were shooting hoops and doing our own little shows right up here on the stage. And so I have all kinds of memories. The pet show, of course, every year. We were all in the station wagon on our way to the pet show for the day. And that just continued all the way through with my own kids. The pet show was always a huge piece of tradition all the way through. It started when my dad was here. It's still going strong today. I know everyone here who's a parent has many of their own stories. I know the cakewalk was always the huge thing at the pet show, and that became the week of the pet show, going through figuring out what cakes we were going to be donating, spending so much time creating ballerina cakes, butterfly cakes, for my son baseball cakes. It was always Little League season. And then the whole day of the pet show spent, I can't even think of how many hours and how much money we threw at the cakewalk trying to earn the same cakes back. That was the highlight of the day, if you got to take your own cake back home. So there are so many memories, and I know all the teachers and the parents have just as many memories. They go back forever. There is so much history here. And I know my dad would have loved to have been here today. And when he retired in 1986, he was given this picture. He was given this picture of Central School, which hung proudly in our house for many years. He loved it. He was so proud of it. It's been in our family for about over 25 years now, and my family would just like to give it back to Central School as a birthday gift. So, happy birthday.
We'll definitely find a special place to put this, and again, I am so fortunate that I had a chance to meet Walter Dunn, and he had so much energy and just, well, with all those kids running around at home, too. I'm sure he could keep up with you all, but very special. Thank you for the gift, and we'll find a wonderful place for it, so thank you, Chris.
Chris? And while we're looking back and reminiscing, for those of you out there, just take a moment and think of the years when you either attended Central School or taught here, and we're going to do a little quiz, all right? Think of the years you were either a teacher or a student, and we're going to work backwards. So we'll start with the current decade, 2000 to 2013. So raise your hands if you either attended or you were a teacher or staff member here from 2000 to 2013. Raise your hands. Okay, 2000 to 2013. There we go. Next, how many of you here either taught or were a student between 1980 and 1999? 1980 and 99. Okay, quite a few people out there. Great. How many of you taught or were a student in the 1970s? 1970s, quite a few. Okay, 1, 2, yeah. There's at least 10 people out there. How about the 60s? Wow, okay, look at there for the 60s. What a good group. Okay. A lot of camaraderie there, I can see it. How about the 50s? Anybody here from the 50s? There we go, look at the 50s. Back there, let's do a couple of hands. All right, moving down. How about the 40s? Anybody here from the 40s? Raise those hands up high. 40s, excellent. Thank you for joining us. And 1930s or before? 1930s or before? Anybody there? I can't tell you how many people have called me in the past year just to mention a name, tell a story. I wish I could just share every single story that was shared with me to get an appreciation of the memories out there. They're just so precious. Somebody brought in their class picture from the 40s, and we made a copy. It's out there on the table somewhere. So it's just a really special time, and thank you for joining us through all the decades. Next, we would like to have a little presentation because there's so much history here that some of you are really going to appreciate it, especially the ones who've been here for a while. It's amazing that when there's history and you try to put it together, I looked at this little piece of video and I just got so choked up. And we have it to play for you today. Thanks to parent Jay Reynolds right here, who did so much work on this video and so much more. If you listen closely, you will actually hear Anna Welsh, former teacher and principal from 1909 to 1949. You will hear her voice. And you will also hear the voice of Bob Lindauer, principal and superintendent from 1949 to 1978. So that is amazing. And I see former former superintendent out there, Joe Townsley. He's shaking his head. Do you remember some of these names? Bob Lindauer, right? Yep. So we're going to shut the lights off. Mrs. Leonard, if you could shut the lights back there on the other side. Thank you. And we're going to just share this video clip. Sit back and enjoy. Thank you.
This is Central School. Here, in the middle of all of the trees at the top of the hill, in the center of town. And it's had its doors opened to educate the children of Simsbury since 1913. I'm Kelly Reynolds, and in 2013, I began my 6th grade year here at Central. My brother Benjamin began his 2nd grade year. Our dad finished up 6th grade here in 1980. Our grandmother also went here. And so did her mom, our great-grandmother. It's pretty neat, but it's not about us, or our dad, or our grandmother, or our great-grandmother. It's about all the people who have walked through these doors and helped the heart of Simsbury keep beating for the past century. As with anything that's 100 years old, it has some pretty interesting history. Let's check it out. It was almost 350 years ago that Simsbury officially became a town. It was 1670, just 50 years after the Mayflower arrived in Plymouth. As the town developed, there was a desire to educate the children in town. The earliest schoolhouses would be open for younger children in the spring and summer months. The older children had too much work to do on the farms during the spring and summer, so they would go to school during the fall and winter. During the 1800s, Simsbury developed district schools. Because children had to walk to school, the schools had to be strategically located around town. The first schoolhouse in Simsbury was located across from where Ena Memorial now stands. There's a plaque that marks its location just inside the main gate of the Simsbury Cemetery. Eventually, there were 12 schoolhouses in Simsbury, one for each district.
District 1 was Meadow Plain on Route 10 in the area of Old Meadow Plain. District 2 was Bushy Hill. The school was near the Bushy Hill Cemetery. District 3, Weetog West, near the fountain that's still there today. District 4, Weetog East on East Weetog Street. District 5, Hop Meadow in the center of town. District 6, Farms, which was in West Simsbury by Tuller Farm. District 7, Hoskins Station, which is near where Antonio's and Kane's Market is today. District 8, Middle, or Center. It was the old stone school on Firetown Road near West Street. And the building is still there today. District 9 was Union on Firetown Road near Holcomb Street. District 10 was Griswold Village in Terriffill. District 11, Terry's Plain, in the area just south of Wintonberry Road. District 12 was called New District, and the school was on Great Pond Road, just west of what is now the entrance to McLean Home.
12 schools in Simsbury, and students of all ages would gather in these buildings. The students in each grade depended on who lived nearby. For example, there could be 4 students who were 2nd graders, but just 1 4th grader. Among the teachers in town was a young woman named Anna Higgins, who had been born in Unionville, went to New Britain Normal School, which is now Central Connecticut State University, and then she had a job teaching in Avon. Then she had a decision to make.
I taught 10 years in Avon.
And then you came to Simsbury.
And Superintendent Reverend John McClin was our superintendent of all the valley towns.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm so glad you told me.
And so he came down and he said to me, I'd like you to come to Simsbury. And I started in at $6 a week. And when I was finishing in Avon, I had $11 a week. And he gave me $1 a week more to come to Simsbury. So I came to the Stone Schoolhouse on Firetown Road, right at the corner there. And Grace Humphrey taught the lower grades, first 4 grades. And I taught the 4 upstairs.
So, in 1909, Miss Anna Higgins became a teacher in Simsbury. It would not be the last we hear from her. Meanwhile, in the early 1900s, Simsbury was looking to improve its education.
The town completed a new high school in 1907, built by local masonry contractor William Ketchen, with red stone taken from his quarry, right here in Simsbury. The vast majority of the cost of the school was paid for by town resident Horace Belden. Over the years, that building, Belden School, served as the high school, and then an elementary school until it became Simsbury Town Hall in the 1980s. In addition to building a high school in the early 1900s, the town also decided during that time that Simsbury should consolidate some of its district schools into one schoolhouse. And the result was Central School, which opened its doors in 1913. It was also built by the Ketchen Company with stone from their local quarry. And again, the town had Horace Belden to thank, as he paid most of the construction cost for Central, which was about $35,000.
In the fall of 1913, Simsbury closed 3 of the 12 district schools and sent a combined 100 children to the new Central School. 40 children from a school that stood where the gas station now stands on Hot Meadow Street, just south of Vincent Funeral Home. 20 children from a school near the current Weetog Post Office. And 40 children from the Center School on Firetown Road. Also moving from the old stone school was Anna Higgins.
Then we went down to the Central School in 1913, and there were 5 rooms open at that time. I think there was one room that wasn't open, the last room, and there were 5 teachers.
In 1913, Central School had 5 classrooms on the upper level, and downstairs there was a health room and a cafeteria, plus boys and girls shower rooms, since running hot water at home was a luxury. Of course, you can't take a shower at the school if you can't get to the school. And in 1913, there were 1,200 people in Simsbury, and even fewer cars. Automobiles were not something that everyone had in 1913. Mr. Robert Lindauer was an educator in Simsbury. He served as principal here at Central, and 19 years as superintendent. In 1982, he visited a classroom of students here at Central and explained how Simsbury solved the problem of getting the children to Central School.
In 1913, this was before they had automobiles. If people in 1913, if they wanted to go to Hartford, do you know how they go to Hartford from Simsbury? Absolutely right. They go by train. They go down where the one-way fare is. Have you been to the one-way fare, or do you know where that is? That was the old train station. They would go down to the one-way fare, and they'd get on the train. People would come out from Hartford on the train, and they'd be hungry, and they'd want to have some lunch or some dinner. And there was one restaurant and one inn downtown, which still was there, Maple Tree Inn. So people would go from one-way fare to the Maple Tree Inn to eat. And they didn't mind walking over in nice weather, but when it was cold in winter and raining, they were very unhappy walking over in the cold and the wind and the rain. So they went to the man who owned the Maple Tree Inn, whose name was Mr. Salter. And they said, Mr. Salter, can you get us from the depot to the Maple Tree Inn? And Mr. Salter went out and he bought 2 big horses and a wagon, and they put benches in the back of the wagon, and it was sort of like a covered wagon so you wouldn't get wet. And he would go down to the railroad station, people would get off the train, get on the wagon, and ride over to the Maple Tree Inn. So when they built this school here, and it had that section, and they said, my goodness, how are we going to get the children who live in Weetog up here? And they said, maybe we could have Mr. Salter use his wagon to give children rides up here. And Mr. Salter got started way back in 1913, and Mr. Salter is the man who brought some of you to school today in those yellow buses that say Salter's Express on the side of it.
It wasn't long after Central School opened that it became clear the school would need more room. And in 1919, an addition was put on the school, using the same red stone as the original building. The lower level served as the auditorium and gymnasium, and on the upper level were 3 more classrooms. The rooms were built as they are now, high ceilings and windows to let in lots of light. And there were clocks on the walls, which had to be wound every week, but that was still an improvement from the days prior to Central School, when teachers, very few of whom had watches, might have to make a mark on the windowsill that faced to the south in order to let them know when it was noon. But, of course, that was useless on cloudy days, so teachers back then often had to guess at what time it was. So, now the school had clocks. There were no counters or sinks in the classrooms back then, but there were chalkboards and desks.
Lots of desks, according to Mr. Lindauer.
They had desks. I said this room had a wooden floor. And they had old desks made of iron and steel that were bolted to the floor. There were about eight desks in a row this way, 6 rows of desks this way. They could have 48 children in the classroom. When I came here as a school teacher, I had 48 children in my room every period.
And if you looked in a classroom back then, you'd find people dressed much differently than they are today, because there was a dress code at Central.
At one time they said girls cannot wear slacks or dungarees, they must wear dresses to school. And boys could not wear dungarees, they had to wear slacks to school. And they did that. That was the rule. Girls had to wear dresses, and girls had to wear dresses here. I think it was up to like 1960 or so, girls had to wear dresses to school. They couldn't wear shorts when it got warm in the summertime. They couldn't wear sandals, and teachers had to wear stockings all the time. They couldn't go bare-legged in June.
Speaking of clothes, there were no lockers in the school back then. Students hung their clothes on hooks in the hall until 1949. And it was in 1949 that another addition was built.
It was a brick addition that increased the number of rooms at Central to 17. This new area had classrooms, the gymnasium, an art room, music room, and a school office, which back then was where the media center is today. The new addition also had a library, making Central School one of the few elementary schools in Connecticut to have a library. 1949 also happened to be the year the school principal was retiring, and so the library was dedicated in her honor. It was named for Mrs. Anna Welch. Mrs. Anna Higgins Welch, who had started at Central School as a teacher in 1913 and eventually became principal in 1942, when the principal at the time was called to duty by the Connecticut State Guard.
In 1960, Central School added more than just walls. It was at this point the school added an annual event, which has continued to this day, the Central School Pet Show and Carnival.
I think one of my favorite memories of when I was a little girl and my dad was the principal was that I had lots of brothers and sisters. And so when my mom was busy with all the kids at home, my dad used to take some of us to Central School so he could do his work on a Saturday morning. And so they would open up the school, he would do his work, and we got to play basketball in the gym and kind of run around in the halls a little bit. Probably shouldn't say that too much. So that was fun for me. And I also loved the pet show. He always loved the pet show, and even when he wasn't the principal anymore, he still came back to the pet show every year and was one of the judges. And I remember going through the mouse house and doing the cakewalk and all that when I was a little girl, and I got to come back because my kids also went to this school, so I was a parent here. I got to come back and work at the pet show and take my own kids to the pet show. So that's been a fond memory for my whole life.
By 1972, Belden School was serving as an elementary school, and Central School was used for only 5th grade and 6th grade students, including students from the overcrowded Latimer Lane School. There were 7 6th grade classes and 5 5th grade classes at Central. Belden School closed in 1980, and kindergarten through 4th grade moved to Central School, and once again there was a wide range in ages, which helped develop a sense of community.
The first week that school opened, when I was first principal, I was walking in the front door, which is now right here, not where your front door is now. and I hear this beautiful voice coming out of the auditorium. I said, who could that be? I mean, we must have a special event for the kids. We must be bringing in like a great singer. And so I went in the door, and it was Carly Dranginis, who was a sixth grader, who was just like rehearsing. And Carly had the most wonderful voice. That I remember that, and I remember her two brothers because her little brother was in kindergarten, and her brother Ryan, when he was in sixth grade, was he was an old boy. He was a regular guy. Sixth grade, played football as tough as any other kid. But his little brother was adjusting to kindergarten and was crying, and Ryan was down on his knee with his arm around his shoulder. And I thought that was like a symbol of the best thing about Central School, where the older kids like you guys always took care of the little kids. I mean, I just thought that even the toughest kid was gentle and tender with a little kid.
Well, I loved all the kids, and I loved having an art room. And until 1996, the art room had these huge windows that I used to look out on the playground. And we developed a Lartneck program, Mr. Marshall and I, where we got to put on giant puppet shows and had a lot of fun on the playground. And it's just a wonderful place to be in. You know, the neighborhood around Misako Street is just very special. There's a lot of places to live, but I couldn't think of a better place to grow up than around in this area. And I just want everyone to remember how lucky they are to be part of Simsbury. What a great place to live.
Mr. Holzman mentioned the view of the playground that he had from the art room until 1997. That's because in 1997, a third addition was completed. He added new classrooms, a new school office, a new music room, a new conference room, and a faculty room, where eventually, at least one former Central student would sit side by side former teachers as their colleague.
Some of my favorite memories as a child here was how wonderful the teachers were. I remember playing out in the fields and making large snowballs and making them into snowmen with all my friends, and playing on the playground and having just a wonderful time here as a student. And as a teacher, I actually was able to teach with my fifth grade teacher. We became fifth grade teachers together, and I still called him Mr. Houghton even when I taught with him. It was hard to say his first name. And now I'm a teacher here, and my daughter's going to be a student here, which is pretty cool. Another special memory that I had of Central School too is when I was hired, I got to actually work with my mom, because my mom was the school nurse while I was here, Ellen Edwards, and we got to be here together, which was pretty neat.
The 2000s brought another addition to Central. This time it would be modular classrooms placed on the south side of the building to be used as part of the Simsbury preschool program.
We also saw a modernization of the Central School playground in 2007, when funds were raised by the community to replace the old playground equipment, some of which was 50 years old. Central School was added to the National Historic Registry in 1993, along with Belden School, which is now our town hall. That's where the offices of the Simsbury School District are today.
And my favorite memory of Central School actually was at the beginning of this year in the fall. I was welcomed in as the new superintendent and had an opportunity to meet the parents and the faculty, and they were so welcoming, and right away I got a feel for what a wonderful environment there is at Central School.
And that says it really well. Whether you've been here a few months or a few generations, Central School is a special place. So here we are, a school that first opened its doors in 1913, still going strong a century later. 100 years of learning, 100 years of history, 100 years of memories. Here's to another 100. Happy birthday, Central School!
I'd like to ask Kelly Reynolds and
big round of applause for that video. That was amazing. And of course, Diane, his wife, who worked behind the scenes with the props, helping out on a windy day outside, setting all that up. Raise your hand, Diane, back there. That really was a family gathering of event, and really appreciate it. That will be in the history and the archives forever. Just such a treasure. And he would just say, oh, I did a little something over the weekend. You know, that's how it would be with all the brochures and all the different things that they've done. So thank you so much. Next, I'd like to just welcome Congresswoman Esty. She just stopped in, so if you could come up and
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. As someone who got my start in public service as a first grade room parent, I have 3 children who are now 24, 21, and 18, and the love and support that you feel in this room, and the multi-generations from new superintendent to 4th generation families. It's a true testament in a lot of ways to what is really special about this country. I have been at Veterans Days, early Veterans Days events today, and that record of service actually that we see here in Central and Northwest Connecticut of people who care deeply about the country, deeply about their communities, and most importantly about the children, about our future. So I have a certificate, I hope, to add to this wonderful collection of this fantastic film with family history and state and local history, and really salute all of you who are part of this amazing school, all of you who are part of this wonderful, wonderful community, because the service you give every day, whether it's in the classroom or putting your child on the bus and greeting them and supervising homework when they come home, and the teachers who give so much each and every day, thank you for what you do. Tremendous congratulations on 100 wonderful years, and may in 100 years people be here celebrating, the start of the 3rd century. So many congratulations to you.
Next, I'd like to call up Lisa Hebner, Deputy First Selectman and the Board of Selectmen Liaison to the Board of Education. That is a mouthful. Come on up, Lisa.
Thanks, Edie. But more important than that, I'm actually a Central School parent, former parent, so that's where I take pride in. I'm going to speak today about stretching. So if you're under the age of 11, can you give me a big stretch? Because we're kind of at the 7th inning stretch. Give me a stretch. Let me see how high you can go. All right. Right, a little move. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, we're so happy to be here to celebrate with you because the values our children learn at Central School and the friends they make here become central to who they are throughout their life. 2 of those values I wanted to highlight today are perseverance and effort. They permeate everything done here. Who here has gotten a perseverance award? Has anyone gotten one? All right, I see some. Congratulations. This is a picture of my son, Rob. He's a tall one. We'll come back to that in a sec. My son Rob started at Central School as one of the smallest kids in his class, and he was definitely the lightest. I know there are people here who remember Rob, and I think they'll confirm that this is true. But he had big dreams, really big dreams. He wanted to play basketball. So he practiced every day, sometimes at 6 in the morning, which wasn't so popular with the neighbors. And he wasn't all that bad. He had really good vertical leap, was quick, and had really, really long arms. When he entered high school, he was 5'2", I'm 5'4", and he was 30 pounds lighter than I am today. But that didn't stop him. He went out for the basketball team. But the coach told him he was too small. Coach Ann of the crew team, a Central School parent, knew how disappointed Rob was at not making the team. And because once you've been at Central, you are never alone, even after you graduate. She and some of his friends at Central School came to Rob and told him he would be perfect for the crew team as a coxswain, the smallest guy in the boat who must steer a straight course and motivate the rowers. So Rob gave it a shot, working with Coach Ann and Miss Leonard. Anyone know Miss Leonard? Give me a shout if you know Miss Leonard. And while Rob loved crew, and they went on to win a state title, Rob still dreamed of basketball. And he played pickup every day at the boathouse after practice, or as often as Coach Ann would permit. Then something strange happened. One season, there was no water in the Farmington. To keep the team in shape, Coach Ann had them play ultimate frisbee, not basketball, as Rob requested. And once you know that to be good at ultimate, you needed good vertical leap, quickness, and really, really long arms. Fast forward to college. Rob is now 5'10". He still weighs nothing, but captain of the ultimate frisbee team at Kenyon College, where they competed in nationals last year. The picture you see of him here was taken at an international tournament in Uruguay and posted on an Argentine blog and forwarded to me from California. And I show it because it captures so much of the values he learned here at Central. Rob may not have realized his dream of basketball, but he was supported by his friends, his teachers, and his coaches. He didn't give up, and he discovered a new love. Being part of and fully supported by this community, never alone, persevering, stretching himself, and going for it are values he all learned at Central. They are central to who he is. They are central to everyone who has been a part of this community. Today, all of us are grateful to be part of the Central School community as we celebrate its 100th year. Now, here's the funny thing about this picture, which he told me later. He actually dropped the frisbee, but he caught the next one.
That's a great story, Lisa. Thanks for sharing. And there's so many wonderful stories. I hope we can share later when we do our rounds and walk around the building. So next speaker, Bill Marshall, former principal, friend, colleague from many years ago, and I'm so glad he's here today. Please welcome Bill Marshall.
Thank you, Edie. As I drove into town this afternoon, it was I passed all the political signs that are out because this is the season. And I was so pleased to see Sean Ascom's name. Sean is one of my former students, and I'm so proud of his success, and I wish you all the best of luck in the election. Maybe you'll get more votes today. While I'm up here, I'd like to recognize Joe Townsley, who provided some 20 years of leadership in this community, was a wonderful mentor and a wonderful friend to Central School for all those times, and just a wonderful person. I'd also like to recognize Lydia Tadone, whom I've known for many years. And from the first time I met her, she bounced into the building and always had this marvelous enthusiasm, which she still has today. And I'm sure the Board of Ed prospers under her leadership as well. I was asked, and I'd like to say what a pleasure it is to see so many teachers here, many of whom I worked with for so many years, and too many to name, but it's just a tribute to Central School that so many people have come back. I was asked to share a few memories, and you already heard some of mine on the slideshow. I would like to fill in a few details on those. First of all, I'd like to say that any school, and certainly Central School, is all about the children. And for those of you who are students here, you don't know how important you are. You are very important, and that's why everybody is here today. I shared a memory of the first week of school in 1986, when I heard this angelic voice coming out of here. It was Carly Dranginis. What I didn't tell you in that is I was inspired by Carly. Recognizing that talent, we took that and ran with it and started an assembly program that year because I could see that there was so much talent here and we wanted to create a vehicle that would celebrate the whole child. And whatever their products were, whether it was song, as in Carly's case, or writing, or poetry, or art, and we struggled to come up with something that would enable those students to bring their products to the entire learning community. And we got it off the ground, and one of the gifts to us was Mr. Holzman when he came here as the art teacher. And I so much enjoyed collaborating with him, and that assembly program evolved into the LARTNET program, which I think is such an important piece here at Central School. But children can't do it alone. And the story I told about Ryan reaching down to help his little brother who was in tears, as sometimes kindergartners are, even in October, separation was very hard for him. And for me, Ryan symbolized all of the helping hands that come from Central School families. And for those of you that are parents, you don't know how special you are. I've worked at other schools in my career, and teachers in kindergarten and first grade will often say, that one is going to be a challenge. And so often they're right at predicting the students who will be a challenge. And in most other communities I've worked in, I could go to the high school years later and see those same students with those same challenges. But I couldn't do that here. I can think of so many students who struggled as kindergartners or first graders who came out of this school in 6th grade ready to just go gangbusters to Henry James and on to the high school, and who are now great success stories. And it's because of the families here at Central School. The parents who work so hard to insist that their children be successes. And I've shared that story many times. My own daughter, when her son, who's now 7, as a 2-year-old, nearly ran out on a 50-mile-an-hour road, and I just had an awful fear that he was going to go under the wheels of a truck. And I said, just be like those parents in Central School who made sure that their children grew up and did the right thing, and parents who worked with their teachers. And so it's the children, it's the families, and finally it's the teachers here at Central School who make it a special place. And the memory that I'd like to share with you is a letter that I've kept for many years that I received from a parent when her 3rd and last son was leaving Central School. And I'm not going to use anybody's real names because she didn't give this letter so that it could be read at something like this. But it was a thank you that she gave to each of the teachers her children had when they were here at Central School. And it says, as Ethan graduates and we leave Central School behind, I wanted to let each of you know how very much I appreciated all you have done for my children over the years. You touched their lives with love and kindness. You encouraged them to think and take risks and strive to be the very best they could be. And oh, did they ever blossom under your tutelage. Each of my sons are so different. Ethan, soft-spoken and introspective. Kevin, the scientific comedian. And Colin, the very curious artist. You encouraged them individually and guided them so that each one could reach their potential. They left Central capable of handling all that would follow, educationally and personally. They have grown to be inquisitive, self-confident boys, and for this I credit their teachers, who always inspired, challenged, disciplined, and taught with great kindness, creativity, and humor. You cared, and we all felt it. As we leave Central, in many ways, their childhood is behind us. a bittersweet reality, to be sure. I will always remember with tenderness, as they will, the many academic and lessons and life lessons that they have learned here. So that's a tribute to all the teachers who have ever served here and all the wonderful things they've done for the children. And in closing, I would just like to say, Central School, a place where everybody knows your name, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you, Bill. We're so honored that you are here today, and we hope you join us for many of the events as time goes forward. We're all part of this legacy, that's for sure. Next, Steve Sedlak served at Squadron Line as principal for most of his career, but was an interim principal here for 1 year, so come on up, Mr. Sedlak.
Thank you very much. Although I hope my voice holds out. Bear with me. My fondest memories of Central School when I was a teacher here back in the 60s. I'm apparently the old-timer representative on the panel, so I'll share a couple of memories from the 1960s. In 1966, I was in my third year of teaching. I had begun at the Belton School, but transferred here the next year as some shifts were going on in town. Newly married, a young guy, had been in athletics, really put myself into my teaching. Loved the kids, and I'd love to go out on sunny days, as I did one spring day in 1967, with the kids at recess time at noon, and I forget whether it was softball or it was kickball. I needed to be the pitcher because I needed to keep the game going at a good pace. You know, that was my need to be involved, of course, but that's another story. Having been newly married, what I didn't realize is I put on a little more weight than I should have at that point. And those were the days before baggy jeans and that sort of thing. It was a different time. Exerting myself during one of the pitches, I felt the seam of my trousers let go. And I knew it wasn't just a little rip. This was a big rip. Well, what do you do? I have to teach the rest of the afternoon. I ran to the office. There were other teachers on the playground, don't worry. I ran to my principal, Walter Dunn. What am I going to do? Go in the nurse's room, close the door, and take off your pants. I'll get one of the teachers to do a quick sew job. At the time, the office and the nurse's room were right out where your media center is right now. And so I did. I went in, and it was quiet, and I passed my pants out the door, and Wilma Diders, who was a special education teacher, was going to sew them up. Well, I knew recess would be over soon, and soon you listen, and the voices calmed down on the playground. Could hear the lines of children marching into the school, and I said, oh, I got to get back and teach class. I can't be here much longer. And I opened the door and I said, hello, how are my pants coming along? There was no answer. There didn't seem to be anyone out there. This does not feel comfortable. After a long wait and anxiety on my part, the pants came back with a quick, the seam was all sewed up. My pants go on and I head back to my classroom, and then the thought occurs to me, what if my students know? I will be so embarrassed. I walked in, the teacher was covering my class. I walked in, and all 20 of those students, their eyes were down at their desks. And I knew that they knew. This was a great place, it still is a great place. You can walk into any school and know within the first few minutes whether it's got a culture that's welcoming and that inspires students in learning. And this is such a place. And I hope it's that way for the next 100 years as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Steve. I have never heard that story. That was very funny. And next we have Mr. Holzman, who worked very closely with Mr. Marshall, and they share lots of great stories as well. Come on up, Mr. Holzman.
Thank you, Mrs. Balkin, and I see so many old friends in the audience. I'm just so honored to be here and to be part of this, and I'm also extremely grateful to have this in my life. Central School is really one of the most significant parts of my life, and I also want to ask the forgiveness of anyone who may have heard this poem that I wrote before. I've worked on it a little bit, so hopefully I'm going to do a better job with it this time. On the 100th anniversary of Central School, let me take 5 minutes to talk about 100 years of history, 24 of which I shared at Central School. This is a special place. There is a feeling here when you walk through the halls. Is it about 100 years of love? My memories seem to live on the playground, which I used to watch from the old art room windows pre-1996. I see myself standing duty at recess, the best time of day, surrounded by screaming kids, everybody happy. There would be crazy soccer games with no rules, where everyone could play. I once saw my son Tim score a goal in the first grade. He's now 26. The screech of old swings and squeaks of sneakers on slides, hide and seek behind trees with white stripes, the digging with sticks and lean-tos constructed, the way some kids would always be last to line up when the whistle blew. Around 2003, Mrs. Balkin asked me to draw the word Central on the playground big enough so that 400 kids could stand inside it. An airplane flew over and found us there on the playground and took our picture. We were all squished together in one blurry mass, surrounded by green trees and hills of Simsbury. We were all on the same boat. I remember field days when Mrs. Bailey-Gates would line up the 6th grade in 2 rows and they would play catch with water balloons, the splash hitting the pavement, accompanied by laughter, everybody getting wet. I loved the way the older kids would help the younger ones do their field day activities. That was always that here, that community. I remember standing in the hallway with Mr. Marshall having a conversation. We were cooking up Lardneck so that cardboard monsters could be vanquished by giant hero puppets, and the cargo of human values could be presented to those sailing away on the voyage of life. I thought I knew about kids, but he taught me to listen to them. Once upon a time, there was a place called Central School, where art teachers grew up, not just kids. I once knew a girl who went to this school. She had long, curly blonde hair, blue eyes, and the sweetest smile. She was really good at art. The years went by, and she went away to college. And then she came back to her old school and became a teacher here and had babies of her own. And that seemed just right in this neighborhood. And that's what time means to me in this place, this building, this playground, the trees surrounding us, the breeze in the trees, the houses on Masako Street, the path through the woods, the crack of a baseball from Memorial, the ring of a bronze bell near the playground door, the flap of a flagpole in the circle, the shine of the hallway, the diesel rumbling of a school bus, the tune-ups of the orchestra, the heat of pottery cooling off in the kiln, the Pledge of Allegiance standing by your desk, the beauty of a nicely arranged bulletin board, a satisfaction of homework done neatly, the soft hands of the teacher on a sobbing shoulder, the way it feels to hear someone tell you, good job, all for 100 years, May it all be here for the next 100 years. Thank you for the gifts, Central School. We're still in the same boat. Thank you.
Dave has a way of getting to our hearts and making it very difficult to speak after him. When he spoke at the September 4th event, on his way out, I asked him for the speech, and we literally put it in the time capsule and buried it that day. So he really captures so much, as all our presenters do today, of what is so special about Central School. Our final two presenters are two teachers who worked together in the same hallway for many years. Maria Stonecipher, who is a retired first grade teacher, and Paige Colantonio, who currently serves as a second grade teacher at Central School. Come on up.
Thank you, Dave. That was just beautiful. And as a parent first, when I came here in '88, we just strolled over with a 3-year-old and a newborn, and where did we end up? With Central School. And we've been here ever since, but I never knew at that time that I would be a teacher here. I started as a parent, and Mr. Marshall was the principal then, and greeted us at the pet show. And from that point on, my youngest, Christian, he wanted a dog. So from that point on, he wasn't born until '90, so when he finally got here, the point was, we want a real pet for the pet show, not a stuffed animal, nothing to do with that. We want to have a real dog here. So when I asked my boys, I have 3 that went through here, what was important to them. And for the first birthday party that we celebrated in September, I did an acrostic poem that we do a lot in 2nd grade. And I have those notes, but I'm going to just detour from that a little bit and go to the essence of what the boys said Central School meant to them. First of all, for the C, which is Central, of course, they were saying the caring part. As Mr. Marshall, and as I still call you Mr. Marshall, as he taught them, and it is about the teachers caring and the children caring, and I hope today that we still teach that to the students. And the community. I'm in a walking community. My boys walked here all their time and walked to junior high, and it wasn't until high school they had to take a bus. So the walking part, coming and playing on the playground, is a big part of all the neighborhood schools in Central and in Simsbury, but at Central, it's like their backyard. They played here, just as Dave said, the baseball bats. It's a center part of their lives and of the community. The E for encouragement was they never left unencouraged. They just were always trying to do their best through the arts, through learning new things, through math Olympiads, through Odyssey of the Mind. Things that were challenging became things that they wanted to do. The neighborhood, as I said, and the nurturing and the teamwork that they learned to work together and to be together. And the T also is a big part for them, because I asked John Arthur, the number 2 son, when he was in Mrs. Burke's class, what could he do? Jack Bannon had an advertisement, not an advertisement, he had an article in the paper about being a POW. And as his turkey trot is about to kick off here in the whole Farmington Valley, he was a teacher here. And that just really settled in with John Arthur. And he asked Mrs. Burke, because he asked the students in his class to collect $1 that they could buy a turkey. And from that point on, we've just done it a little bit every year, and continue to be a supporter of the Farmington Valley Turkey Trot, and in honor of Jack Bannon. In fact, John Arthur was on a plane coming back last night, and he said he sat next to Jack Bannon's niece, and they were talking, and she says, well, I don't know if you happen to know the Bannon family. And he said, I mean, as in Jack Bannon? And she said, yeah. She goes, oh yes, I know all about him. And so he just, at the end of it, said, it's such a privilege to know you, and your uncle was such an outstanding man. So that means a whole lot to our family and to I know the second graders who are starting to lead the Turkey Trot and Citizenship Pillar this month. And also for the troops, that meant a lot to my family. Not so much when Trey was here at Central School, but he learned the values to go on and serve our country. And I get emotional about that because it was through our students here that when he was deployed, that they took time to send packages, to write notes, and just to keep me stable, and just to know that we were supported. And we still do that today. The last batch of letters that went off to a Marine, he's there now. My second graders wrote him, what will you be for Halloween? And one of them said, I bet you're going to be an Army man. So when I told Trey that, he says, oh, I have to share that with the Marines here. So it was just great. So it's those little things that count, and they learn that here at Central, to care and to share what is important to them. The teachers that my sons had, they said, Mom, you have to share about that. Going from 6th down to kindergarten, I'll do it briefly, but from 6th grade, they all had Judy Lee, now Boyce Claire, and they learned to love math, and I'm so glad they learned it from her because, you know, they just have continued to have that throughout their lives, and just how to be a friend. And Mr. Houghton with history, continually, even in the U.S. history to this day is one of their favorite things because you've just put that in their hearts. And in 4th grade, Mr. Hernick, who was a big part of, all three of them had Mr. Hernick, and he loved to be hard on him, be stern, but through it all, he really, I can't even imagine a classroom full of simple machines and saws and screwdrivers and projects that were created, but they loved it, they loved all that he gave to them. And in 3rd grade, Mrs. Burke dressing up for Masako Plantation and going down the path, and even the Salters bus path to go was a great thing that they remembered throughout, and the field trips, and being a parent and being able to do that, being part of it. And the 2nd grade team of Mrs. Marquis, they didn't have, but she became my teammate because Mr. Marshall and Mr. Sedlak believed that we could job share. We were the first ones that got to do that. And the 2nd grade team taught me all that I know. And Debbie Driscoll and Sue Montemerlo. And they loved Frog and Toad are friends, and they remembered that for the whole time. And John Arthur was probably the smallest, and Mark Scarandio was one of the tallest, and they dressed as Frog and Toad are friends and shared the suit jackets. And we even went to Tooten Hills at the time, and we shared friendships that way. So it was a real special time. And 1st grade, Trey and Christian had Mrs. Stonecipher, and John Arthur had Mrs. Sturgis, and she learned how to separate when they need to be separated and encourage when they need to. And one liked to write, one did not like to write, and so it was amazing. We were in San Diego, and Christian knew every single thing about bears. There's a sun bear, and he would just tell up, and he had these little glasses at the time. She called him her professor. And she said to him, she says, when you become an author and write a book, let me know. Well, little did she know that the next year in 2nd grade, when he wrote a book in Mrs. Driscoll's class, he dedicated it to her. And so he was an author, so that was great. And went on, and then Judy Sturgis in 1st grade with John Arthur had, I don't know, this thing with animals and the nature, and I got to bring home a rabbit. Oh, I didn't. John Arthur got to bring home a rabbit for the weekend, and that was quite interesting. But she knew everything. She knew when there was a hawk outside the kindergarten room getting ready to attack, when Mrs. Pronitis was in kindergarten there, she knew to identify the hawk and the guinea pig, whatever it was. So she knew everything, and taught them the love of that. And she also had Trey in kindergarten with a lot of boys in that year. There were at the end 60 kids, 45 were boys. And she had John Arthur in 1st grade too, bringing home the bear and doing all the fun things. And Mrs. Parabulas, She was also in kindergarten, and Peggy Morley, who I got to be a para in her room and in Maria's room, and learned so much, and got to go to the specials, and got to learn what it was to do art. And I even was in the art show because Mr. Holzman let me do that. It was great. And with music, Mrs. Brenner and Miss Hendershot, the arts, Ms. Lessier, just the encouragement. My first concert as a parent, there were maybe 10 to go and see how it's just multiplied. Ms. Lessier has just encouraged that along with the whole Simsbury district. So it's important. That was T. The R recess, Mr. Marshall said, they're going to learn how problems of life are solved. Can they play? Can they work together to work on the rigor that we ask them to do? And have always asked them to do, it sounds like. So part of that is ending with L, with the Larkneck, which is a big part. The central spelled backward, but the love that Mr. Marshall and Dave got together to create a program where you can have an outlet to create, to celebrate your musicianship or your artistry. And all that leads to is the love that we have here for Central. So thank you.
Well, good news is I'm last. You've been waiting for me. It is great to be back. This is an amazing milestone for Central School, 100 years. I'd like to start by quoting a favorite children's author, Dr. Seuss. How did it get so late, so soon? My sentiments exactly. The older I get, the faster time flies. I am thrilled to be here to be part of this program celebrating Central's 100th anniversary. At first, I wondered why I was asked to speak. I also wondered why I said yes. I realized that the answer to both those questions is the same. It's because I really love Central School, and I always have. I was hired in 1989 by Bill Marshall to teach first grade. I did that for 21 years with the exception of 1 year in second grade. One of my first memories was going into the office, which everybody has mentioned is where the media center is now, to pick up supplies that were stored in a floor-to-ceiling steel safe. Really, that was 100 years old. It was guarded closely by the secretary at the time, Ann Lowry. Is Ann here? No? Yeah. Getting pencils and crayons in those days was not an easy task. I did not teach here 100 years ago, but I can help with closing the gap from 1989 to the present. When I arrived here, my classroom, which was located where third grade classrooms are now, was equipped with a sand table, 2 painting easels, chalkboards, cassette tapes, clay for strengthening hand muscles, finger paints, and shaving cream for practicing letter formations. Pencils were not introduced to first graders until January, and then they were fat pencils. Students were taught reading using an economy reading series, just one step up from Dick and Jane. You could say that at that time we did not believe in rushing our first graders. When I retired, my classroom looked very different. There were computers, smartboards, document cameras, DVD players, laptops. Students used pencils from day one and started to write their small moment stories. Reading was taught using leveled reading books, and I had my very own classroom library. I loved teaching first grade, then and always. My best memories were of riding in a wagon to go apple picking, making stone soup, baking bread for holiday gift baskets, and my all-time favorite, the author's tea. This event made every student feel like an accomplished reader and writer, and it made me feel so proud to have been a part of such important work. Lucky me. Not everything was peaches and cream, and I would be remiss in not sharing with you that I did not like having recess duty on those 20-degree weather days. And I really did not like having to protect my classroom from 21st graders returning to the room after outside recess covered in snow. There would be wet snow gear everywhere, and never enough plastic bags to contain it. I was also not a big fan of lunch duty, especially opening all those Caprice and juice boxes. Of course, you would be hard-pressed to find a first grader that agreed with me. All students loved recess and lunch unconditionally, always. I have many wonderful memories that span 21 years. I was thrilled to be part of the faculty right from the start, but it wasn't until the first open house that I realized what the magic of Central School really was. I had 100% attendance of all parents and students. I realized this was more than a school. It was and continued to be a magnet for a Simsbury community that cherished their children and education above all. It has been a privilege to be a part of this, and it will always be a chapter in my life that I will be proud to share. I'd like to thank Central School for all the wonderful students, staff, experiences, and good friends that enriched my life while I was here. In the words of the late, great Bob Hope, thanks for the memories. Happy 100th anniversary, Central School.
Thank you, Paige and Marie, for sharing. I would like to also recognize former Principal Herb Crocker, who is not here today. He wanted to be here, but he was recovering from an illness, and he's with us in spirit for sure. We'll definitely share the video with him at some point. Next, we have a song written and sung by Tom Kelly. Tom is the husband of Abby Kelly, father of Claire in 6th grade, TJ in 4th grade, and twin boys coming to kindergarten next year. As Tom comes up, he will sing a wonderful song that he is going to record in a studio. And then at the end, we have closing remarks and thanks, and just for all the people who work so hard on this committee. So Tom will give you a minute to sit up.
Hello? All right. All right, is that a little low on the guitar? Okay. Well, thank you, Edie, and everyone for having me here to sing this. And so the 100th anniversary crew got together and asked me to come in and write a little song to commemorate this time. And basically it was taking a lot of what you've heard today and just kind of putting it together in a little song to kind of commemorate the event. So this is what we came up with. Sleepy little town by the river, they pulled that redstone from the ground. In the heart of town, we're gonna build a school that's gonna last forever. And in 100 years from now, when they ring that bell, the kids will fall in line to learn the ropes. They'll know it's time, and here we are now, 100 years later at Central, and our future's looking bright and clear. And thanks to all the generations there before us that made sure we had a future here to take along the way.
the way. Take along the way. To take along the way. To take along the way.
That was so fantastic. We are so blessed, as everyone said today, to have the most fantastic parent community, teacher community, people working together to make things happen. I'd like to recognize some very important people who worked on the committee. And again, Diane and Jay Reynolds. If we did have committee chairs, they certainly would have been involved in everything. They were so instrumental in making everything happen. Let's recognize them. Again, please, Diane and Jay. They worked literally on every event, and as you saw in the video, the fact that Jay, as well as so many people in this room, attended school, the children attend school, grandparents attended Central School, so it's just amazing to hear that history. As I read your names, please stand. Special thanks to Deb Kendall for taking the lead on the 100th committee by ordering and selling spiritware, helping with decisions, setup, and sharing her great ideas. And then let's hold our applause till the end. I'll just read through the rest of the names, and please stand. Thanks to all our teachers and staff members. Amazing schools. Everyone pitched in. There wasn't anyone who wasn't involved in something along the way related to decade boards, aerial photo, the flash mob, and so much more. Special thanks to Kim Ashelman, Paige Colantonio, Megan Leonard, Andrea Pernitis, Sue Evelyn, and Beth Hennessy. And thank you. And Linda Drake, please stand, chair of the 90th. Where's Linda? She joined us at the end and made many contributions, and thanks for that nice touch with the balloons. That was great. She did that just this morning. Martha Hogan, I'm not sure if Martha's here, but she shared her amazing talents with brochures, flyers, and media aspects of the program. So thank you to Martha. George Blick, is George in this room? I'm sure he's hiding. Well, he's an amazing, one-of-a-kind head custodian. Doug Reynolds, Peter Schwager for making the building and grounds look so spectacular. And of course, Joanne Chase and Lisa, secretary in the office. They're right back. Oh, there's George. Stand up, George. Lisa, Joanne, stand up, please. They're totally ignoring me right now. Thank you to Steve Twitchell, Burke LeClaire, town maintenance crew, and everyone for sanding doors, replacing rusted lockers, and so much more. And thank you all for reminiscing with us and helping us make new memories. I'd like to also point out we have two assistant superintendents, Sue Lemke and Erin Murray here. I didn't get a chance to recognize them before. The past, present, and future are all connected by the very people, some of whom are in this room. We join together, and we are joined because of the love of children, but that has been mentioned over and over and over. As parents, educators, and community members, we know that Central School represents so much of what is right, good, and positive about our world. Thank you for living these special memories with us today. The school will be open to around 5 o'clock. We have games downstairs in the cafeteria organized by Mrs. Bailey Gates. We have signs all around the building. We have refreshments. And find out where the gym showers, the cold room are located, and take time to learn about our history and talk with folks around in the hallways. And we also, I don't know about the flash mob outside, what do you think? All right, while you're mingling around, we'll let you know, I'll make an announcement. This is Ms. Ashelman and some of the teachers are going to go outside in this circle with students, and they're going to play the song Celebration. And as a whole school, we know how to do the moves to the celebration song and a flash mob. So it'll take them a little bit to set up. We'll let you know when it's happening so you can take a peek and watch. Thank you again, everyone, and it's so nice you're here today. One last thing, please sign in at the front lobby. If you haven't had a chance to do that, we want all your names so we remember you for the next 100 years. Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.